Hello and welcome to the final episode of Control Alt Access for this year. It is a video game accessibility video and audio podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Laura. I'm here as ever with my lovely co-host, Arevia. How are you doing?
Hi everyone, I'm doing good, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm starting to wind up work toward the end of the year. Like, I've got a few things I still need to do, but a couple of projects are having their last recordings of the year, and I'm getting ready
Yeah.
to take a bit of time off because I've not really done that this year.
Yeah, like 2025 for me has been a year where I've done like most of my work outside my PC. So this and next week is filled up with travels, but then it's done. Then it's completely done.
Yeah, it's been a weird year for work for me this year in that I've done a lot of projects that maybe I'll be able to talk about them someday, who knows. Weird year in that regard, but we're doing a game of the year episode today because we're finishing up the year, and what better way than to go, actually video games are pretty good sometimes and we enjoy them a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, before we jump into them, what our sort of criteria is or is not for talking about them on Game of the Year on this show?
Yeah, so we talked a bit about like should we do accessible games of the year or just do games of the year, but we thought about hey, we talk a lot about games and accessibility, of course, but let's just talk about our favorite games of this year, like our top games, top 5 games of this year. There we are being a little lenient on the rules here. Some of the games haven't technically come out yet, but we have played them a lot. Some of them are like, is it a video game? No,
Well, here's the thing, look, we know in our hearts what games defined the year for us, and I think that the best Game of the Year content you're going to get out of us is the things that our heart tells us we should give Game of the Year.
Yes.
So we're each gonna have five game of the year entries. I currently have 7 on my list. I'll get it down to 5 before we finish talking, and then honorable mentions, and I might just shove 2 of those onto honorable mentions.
But I have had to say that this is the time I realized I have barely played games this year. When I made this list, I was just like, oh, I have I played more than 5 games? I have, but it doesn't feel like it. It's been a long year for me.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I'm suddenly realizing I played way more things than I thought I did this year, and getting it down to like a concise list has felt painful.
Yeah. Yep.
So which of us wants to start and jump in first?
I can start on the top. For me, if this game has not been the year I have played a lot of different game, it is the year that I have found myself finding a new genre of game that so nicely have been called friend slop online.
Yeah, you're in your friend slop era, and it's been great to see.
Friend slop area, and it's like I have had a hard year with my health, but one of the things that have really kept me going is, in the end of the day, I have a gang of or a few people on a Discord server that is just me and them, and we come together and we play games. Either we do it separately or we do one of these friend slop games together, and it has been memories that I just cannot be without this year. And I think for the top of my game there is actually R.E.P.O. We have not talked about it a lot on this show, but it is a game where you are these tiny robots that go into a mansion and you're going to try and extract out as much valuables as possible. But in all of these levels there are monsters that will be triggered by different things. If they see you, if they hear you, if you do something, they can attack you. And it is a co-op game you do together with friends, and it's just silly fun. This is more of the horror genre, and I have a weird connection with horror because it's actually one of my favorite genre to watch other people play, but I am the wuss of the century. So for me to actually play them myself, I need to have somebody to hold my hand, and that is what this game has been. It's just fun with friends, where you have these, I can't remember what it's called right now, but it is like if you're close to somebody you can hear them, But as long
Oh, proximity chat.
yes, they have proximity chat. They also have a really good actually text to speech. So it's
Mm.
just been fun. It's been that kind of year where I need to just relax. And technically, it has also been these kinds of games that have made me sort of fall in love again with the simplicity of games. And that you will
Mm.
see on my whole list that every single game I will talk about is mostly about simpleness. It's about like what games could do that is sometimes is just a little bit of a relief from your every single day. So R.E.P.O is
Yeah.
the first on my list, a horror friend swap co-op game that I highly recommend everybody to try. Laura, what is your first game?
I'm gonna start with the first one this year, like time-wise, that really gripped me and I fell in love with, which was Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Um, I really love the Yakuza series. For anyone, we've talked about them a little bit before, but they are half serious crime drama, half very silly, goofy nonsense.
Yes.
Um, and Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is maybe the peak of the silliness of the series
Yeah.
in a way that I very much enjoyed. For what is essentially a slightly shorter side story, you're playing as a character who got amnesia, gets convinced to be a pirate, then his friends show up and say, "Hey, you have serious brain damage. We need to take you back to Japan and get your head looked at." And he says, "I'm not done being a pirate," and runs off to go be a pirate some more. And the tone of that game was set like an hour or so in where there was just this like very cheesy musical number on a boat that the lyrics were terrible, everyone sung kind of out of tune, but it set the tone for that adventure.
Yeah.
I really like, as someone that's a little erratic in my gameplay, as someone with ADHD, I like a lot of dopamine. I enjoyed quite how frequently that game changed genre entirely back and forth.
Yeah.
There is constantly new, very hard to predict things happening, and that is exactly the kind of thing I love in games. I like a narrative that I can get invested in with enough silly goofiness to keep me from getting bored and drifting off to some other game.
And I have to say also though, like Yakuza is a series. Like I think we are on year 20 of this series. Like
Hmm.
it's a long-standing series, and if anybody wants to get into the series, they can easily just jump into this game. That is easy. But also they have
Hmm.
remade a lot of the old school, like the first games, and
Yeah.
they are still really good. Like
Hmm.
the Yakuza Zero game.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I just finished playing through the Switch 2 port of Yakuza 0, which has an English dub finally, which is really nice to see. And yeah, it holds up pretty well.
it's just genius.
What about you? What's your next game on your game of the year list?
I I was thinking like there has been a lot of good games, and also I have played some games that like I couldn't put on list because they weren't a game for this year. It wasn't from this year.
Hmm.
So I was thinking because even though like I remember on this podcast tearing
Hmm.
Outer Wilds like a new hole
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
being so annoyed at that game, but it's still a game that like haven't let go of me. So I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, there is something about games where you're stuck with just a feeling. And what
Hmm.
is there a game from this year that is somewhat in the same category of just being stuck to me? Like, of course, I don't
Yeah.
ever think anything will reach up Outer Wilds. Like, that is just a unique game
Hmm.
in itself. But a game that is actually sort of have been like a warm comfort for me this year, and a game that I've thought about a lot in a way of they just being a gem is actually Tiny Bookshop.
Yes.
It was just something about it that it doesn't believe itself to be anything more than what it is, but what it is so warm. And it is a game where you sell everything you have and you buy yourself a little hanger to your car, and then you move to a new town and you try and sell books from your itty bitty tiny bookshop. And the stories of the different characters and the things you can do was just something I needed, because not only does this game has a brilliant way of like looking at accessibility and color accessibility, where you can decide yourself what each book genre has. So like say you want every kids book to be green and you want every crime books to be red. You can choose all of this yourself, so it's easier for you to do it, which is a good way of doing color accessibility. But also it's just had something with some of the stories of like the stories of letting go, the stories of starting anew, the stories of being young, and all of the characters just seemed authentic. There are still characters that I someday just think about. Like I'm drinking a cup of tea and I'm just like, I wonder how that character would react in this situation. And I am being a bit vague on purpose because it is also something in the same genre of Outer Wilds that I think if you have some time, go and check it out. See if this like ticks something in you the same way it did for me. Like try Tiny Bookshop, see if the stories is something that will give you internal hug that you didn't knew you needed. So highly recommend checking that. It's also a quite cheap game. So yeah, Tiny Bookshop.
Lovely. Well, I guess from here, I should probably jump into the thing that consumed my year. And it's probably the thing on my list that is closest to the friend slop stuff you've been enjoying, in terms of it is the thing that is as much about the people I've been playing it with as the experience I've been doing. It was always going to end up on a Game of the Year list for me this year. I'm going to talk about Bridge Command.
Yes.
I've talked about this so frequently. This is a physical location in London, in Vauxhall, that they have built 2 fully functional starship sets where you and a group of other people... there is a video game underlying it. It's running off of a game called... a heavily modified version of a game called Empty Epsilon, which is a open source program for doing multiple person on multiple screen ship combat missions. And they've just sort of built in... They layer it with actual actors and having like a physical set, and like your engineering requires like putting new fuses in and things. But underlying it is basically Empty Epsilon. That you go and for 90 minutes or so at a time, go do a big space adventure. And I went for a one-off visit for a friend's birthday, and then I went a few more times, and then I did a campaign. And then I've genuinely gotten really invested in this thing this year. The people there, super lovely. Gameplay wise, I am consistently really impressed with the unique, novel ways they find to give you mechanically different things to do with a very basic underlying video game system. And the ways that they have incorporated live action actors into just enough of the narrative element to give you something that feels very human, while still having like a very understandable set of game mechanics underneath. As much as I love something like Dungeons and Dragons, where it's all very theater of the mind and imaginative gameplay, this really blends the best of like coming up with in-character narrative stuff in the moment with tangible video game mechanics and the set design that, as someone with aphantasia who can't really imagine things in the theater of the mind, I have like tangible events happening around me, absolutely is the thing that grabbed me this year. Also, from an accessibility perspective, I have been consistently impressed at Bridge Command's ability to very genuinely and openly take on accessibility feedback and very quickly iterate on improvements based on feedback. I could not have enjoyed this I didn't enjoy anything this year as much as I got like hyper fixated on Bridge Command.
I actually really enjoy you saying it, because I went to my first escape room 2 weeks ago.
Ooh.
I was in Newcastle and I met my gaming friends, and we did, all of us, we were actually supposed to not be more than 8 people, but we called them and was just like, hey, we are up 9, and they were just like, no, then you need to be 2, and we were just like, well, then we're not coming, then we're not showing up. And I went, we can sell 9 tickets. That's okay. And I did my first escape room, and it was amazingly fun. We ended up on the leaderboard for the escape room because we did it like incredibly fast. And all of them, when we were done, the people working there went over to us and were just like, do you guys do Dungeon and Dragons normally? Because we have not seen people work so good together. And we were just like, nope, we have done gaming together, and we're used to friend slop and everything like that.
It's really nice when you have a gameplay experience like that. Like I for Bridge Command again, I had a Bridge Command mission the other day I was captaining that went so smoothly. Where it just really felt like we had one person who was like the center point. Anytime we got new information, make sure they know it because they'll know what the pieces going on are in the little mystery. Different every time we got like physical things, it's like, okay, we'll hand them out and share them out so that people are working on different things, and we worked together so smoothly. I was like,
it's so fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what about you? What's another game on your list this year?
I am in my friend slop era. Sorry guys, I cannot not do it, but it is Peak. And Peak again, it is just that fact that I have been so ill this year. I first started with a burnout that drained every single motion I had, and then I sort of got back on my feet slightly, and then I got hit with something that is an infection that is still going on in my body, and the pain and everything. And then just having to know that in the end of the day, no matter how hard I have to work or how effed up the medication is going to do me, I can just log on with friends and just laugh. And I see so many people talk down on these kinds of games because a lot of them are cheaply made and they are just silly. But why does games sometimes need to be so serious? Batman reference there. But like, why do we always need to be, it needs to have a billion budget, and it needs to have 100,000 people working on it, and it needs to be made for over a decade, and all of these things, which are cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but not everything needs to be like that. And that is just what Peak was. I think it was actually before R.E.P.O as well. It was just this silly thing. And also with the developers so kindly, when I made an ask for accessibility for bug phobia mode, they just jumped and did it. And this is the power of small indie games. Like, they're so easy to think that if you're a small team, you cannot do an actual change. And yeah, you might not be able to do like a change that will be talked about for the industry for ages, like what Xbox did or what Last of Us did. But what you can do is to change the day for our gamer, and that gamer will never forget it. Like, I will not forget that Peak saw my TikTok and went, "Bish, we got you," and then turn around and put it in. And then when I again made a new one and criticizing the new implementation of the bug mod, saying this isn't good, like, I love you guys for doing this, but this is not good enough, they said, hold my hat, I'm going to fix this. And then they fixed it, and they kept on doing this. So every time they added a biome, they kept remembering what people have told them. And of course, it's not just me, it is a whole community of people that talk to them, but they're being some kind and going like, hey, we just want you guys to have fun. And that has been, yeah. And just the fun of like having the possibility of your character turning into a big rotisserie chicken when other character gets hungry so they can cannibal you. Like, it's just the silly Billy fun of like, let's sit down 1.5 hours, forget the world, play a silly game. And if a friend of us comes in and they don't have money, there is always one of the other people going like, hey, this cost nothing. I can buy it for you. Here you go. Check your Steam library. We have we gifted it to you. Like, it's just this, I don't know. It's just been what I needed this year. And yeah, Peak is up there. I have able to be like get up to the top like maybe 3 times and that's it, and I still fucking love that game.
Mm. I I'm not quite there yet, but I love what you were saying about like games that are not made with like huge mega budgets and things. One of my I've got something as an honorable mention I'm going to talk about at the
Yeah.
end of this year that's about the cheapest made game possible I could talk about.
Yes.
Sometimes that's just what you're after.
Yes. And those
Uh,
is also we have to remember those as well. But yeah, Laura, your
yeah.
next game.
Uh, I'm talking about another big budget one because I've really enjoyed some of the big budget stuff this year, and I'm just it's rare that I enjoy the big budget stuff as much as this year's crop has.
But this is
I
what we
want to talk
call
about
we have reach this year, Laura. We have me on one
yeah.
side, itty bitty indie small games, and you on the other
I
side, the big
I
dogs.
usually I'm all about the indies, but there's been a few big ones this
Yeah,
year I've really loved.
yeah,
Death Stranding 2,
yeah.
I did not think would end up near the top of my game of the year
Oh,
list this year, but that game is really, really enjoyable. The first Death Stranding, not necessarily my biggest. I'm not the biggest fan of
yeah,
it. I think it leans a little too much in the realm of um, character writing that's a little exaggerated and hard to take seriously, and its gameplay was a little too restrictive. Death Stranding 2, by comparison, it's a game of two halves. Gameplay wise, it was me driving around Australia, collect resources, drop them off, collect resources, drop them off. Yes, I know I don't need to build all the roads. I don't need a full road network to complete the game, but I'm going to build every single road and every single tramway and every single optional thing that can be built, and I'm just going to run around collecting resources repetitively and building infrastructure that I then get little pop-ups on the screen that other people were like, oh, in my world I had a road because you made a road. Thank you, little thumbs up.
oh,
And the dopamine I got from just repetitive tasks. I was going on my big grand adventure trying to deliver things, but for me it was mostly about building all the roads and feeling very completionist. Um, but narratively, that's where I think this game really surprised me because Hideo Kojima, not known for like games that move me emotionally,
no,
um, or narratives that I can take terribly seriously. Death Stranding 2 is a quite genuinely sincere and sweet look at um, disability levels of grief
yeah,
in parental loss, and specifically male parental loss that doesn't just look like rage and violence.
yeah,
Um, you look at games like The Last of Us, God of War, that are so much about like men feeling loss and going on journeys of like vengeance and anger because I'm feeling loss and therefore the world's got to be murdered about it.
yeah,
This was a story that like very genuinely dealt with the fact that like, hey, grief can be disabling and it doesn't always look like anger. There are health even if it's not necessarily healthy what the character's going through, there are methods other than anger to deal with these
yes.
feelings. I was so moved by this game while also just really enjoying mining resources, driving them halfway across the map for half an hour to build one more section of road and going, yeah,
I think
infrastructure.
that's the autism in you coming out. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that that Stranding is one of those games that is going to be either it is what you explain now or
Mm,
you don't like it, because I have heard nothing in
yeah.
between. There is either people go, and I feel like that was a lot with the first game as well. It's an either a
Yeah.
game where you go, fuck yeah, I do everything, this is so much fun, or it's just like, why is this even a game? And it's nothing in between. But I think that again, it is needed. It is fun to see the director here, like he is just so old now that he just makes what he wants to
Mm.
do, and this is such a it's a love letter to himself and what he wants to do, and I think that is charming. I think that is nice.
It's his games are always going to be hit and miss to me,
Yeah,
but this one, the narrative felt really at home with mechanics that were about just going on big long journeys and just having a lot of time to think.
yeah,
And I really enjoyed it. I walked away just desperately wanting to talk about the fact it had impressed me way more than I had given it credit for.
Yeah,
Um,
I see like you, and I've seen like Jacksepticeye also say the same.
mm,
Like it's just the it's something zen about it, and yeah. Hmm.
yeah. What about you? What's your next game?
I so I were for a long time not sure if I were going to put this on because it isn't any revolutionary game.
Hmm.
And again, like that maybe that is this year. Now I sound like so soppy. I have had an okay year. Like I went to Japan and everything, but like that is just life.
Oh,
Sometimes you
you've
life.
had a lot. You've had a lot of things
Yeah,
cropping up unexpectedly on your year, which
yeah.
always kind of weighs it down a bit.
And I was thinking like, should I put this game on? Should I not? Should I do the honorable mention here? But no, I wanted to put it on because and that game is Powerwash Simulator 2
Hmm.
to be precise.
Yeah.
And it's just that I have had this game as sort of like a game where I have put it on while listening to a podcast game, or I put
Hmm.
it on while I talk to my friends, or I put it on while I do something. And it's just been so good to just have something. I think it's been like mentally stimulating game in the form of sort of having like a fidget spinner but digitally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed it, and I also enjoyed the first game. But Power Wash Simulator is one of those games where I play, and then I forget it for like 2-3 months, and then I play, and I forget it for 2-3 months. And it's so simple because most games like that is for me like that. I have a bunch of them. Notoriety Skyrim, which I have like two
Hmm.
weeks in a year. Like January, February, I will have 2 weeks of Skyrim. I do nothing else than just breed and play Skyrim for 2 weeks. But in that game, I always need to start over from the start because it's so complicated and it is so many things you can choose from, and it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be an RPG and all of these choices, and you need to do different things each time. Power Wash Simulator, on the other hand, that is a game you can pick it up. Haven't played it for 2 years? No worries, we got you, baby. And you here's your power wash, here's your object, and you just have fun. No timed, no things that you can do, nothing that you can do wrong. The only thing like sometimes is a bit annoying is that there are like you get text messages and you can't reread them if you miss them. But other than that, it is just chill and it's fun and it is a mental fidget spinner. And I absolutely love it for just what it is, and that is silly Billy chill fun.
Yay.
Yeah.
My next one I'm going to put on here is not a very accessible game, and it is a game that I had a lot of issues with initially, and I almost didn't get on well with, and then I hit a curve, and then suddenly it was Game of the Year material for me. And this was Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Narratively, one of the most beautiful, fascinating stories I've ever seen tackled in a video game. Absolutely love it. I think it is deeply complicated,
Yeah.
and I've had such interesting debates with people about what they chose at the end of that game and why, and it feels really insightful getting into that. But mechanically, this is a turn-based RPG that allows you to completely break its mechanics.
Yeah.
It's a little hard initially because it's got like parrying is quite important, dodging and parrying to build back up your special meter, and that I had to put the game on easy and turn everything but the sound effects off and like get it to click in my head a bit. But there's a point in that game that I reached where I was able to one-shot most bosses in the game because there's all of these little things you can equip to your character as you go, and they do not care whether putting two things together would break a mechanic entirely. Um, I was playing through a lot of the late game of that game with a single character, only one character in my party, because I got a bunch of bonuses for being the only character. Um, with only 1 HP, because I got a bunch of bonuses for like letting myself only start with 1 HP. And then just doing like my one attack that would just murder the entire fight, and I'd just be like walking through spamming my one attack and murdering everything in a like just one character alone. And The narrative was built in such a way that it really rewarded. You found a way to break the game, that's going to feel narratively rewarding. Um, Also, there is so much content in that game. As someone that loves like a really good RPG to just get lost in for ages, um, I was constantly realizing there were entire dungeons in that RPG that I had completely missed and that I could do in the post game. I got so lost in that game, and its music is fantastic, and I had a brilliant time with it.
I think like Clair Obscur is going to be the winner of Game of the Year everywhere. Like every
I
single,
suspect so,
yeah, every
yeah.
single place it's been is won everything. And it feels so weird because I only know about two people who did not like the game. That's me. Played it for 2 hours, did not like it, and one other friend. And for some reason, there are some characters that just irks me so much that I just started like almost mimicking them because I got so annoyed of them. So I think I'm looking forward to
Mm,
like give me a year. Like in a year,
yeah,
when people have stopped talking about it and I am in a different place in my life
yeah.
and I can sit down and I will try again because
Uh,
everybody loves it and not me.
I'll say this. I felt similarly at first, and I don't blame you for feeling that way.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with it to the first Mass Effect back in the day, where I started playing it and it wasn't clicking. And then I started from the beginning, played the beginning again, wasn't clicking. Tried it one more time, and suddenly it was like game of the century material. And I was
Yes.
like, okay, yeah,
Yes.
it took a second to get its hooks in me, but it is undeniably one of my favorite things I played this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, and I somewhat know that if something is like, of course things can just not be your cup of tea, like say Elden Ring, but for me Elden Ring, it is a really specific reason why I don't like it, and it's due to the
Hmm,
game mechanics, but it's nothing I
yeah.
can pinpoint to clear up or say that is not what I like in a game, because everything that game has I love in every other single game I've played.
It just
So
didn't click, and
yeah,
that's fine.
so I need to next year. I need to just have a week. Nobody deserves me, and I'm going to play this game and see if it will click.
And is this next one your last game of your top five?
Yes.
Ooh, what's your final one on your top five?
Oh, it's controversial. So
Yeah?
my last one is actually a game that isn't technically out, so it is a bit,
Oh, that's fine.
yeah, but it is the game called Schedule One. It
Hmm.
is it has some things that I don't like about the game, but it's just a really, really, really well done management game. And I just wish it wasn't a game about like growing and selling drugs. But that is just what it is. It's just taking, I have how can I tell? It's like Stardew Valley, my some of my absolute favorite game ever. Like I have had ridiculous amount of hours in that game in over so many consoles. And then when Stardew Valley, they sort of started like a boom of these kinds of game management, farming, simulating games,
Yeah.
and a lot of them tried, but they never got it completely. They had something with them, which was like the X factor Stardew Valley had of was being like authentic. Stardew Valley is itself. Like right now, looking back at it, we look at it as a giant, but when it came out, it was just like developers' love for storytelling and what he wanted to do. He had used years on it, and that was what it was cool. Like he just made something he really, really liked, and it hit on. And sort of the
Yeah.
same I have with Schedule as well. Of it's just a developer who want to have fun, in the most dumb way ever. And he goes like, "Hey, this is going to be a really controversial game, and I don't give a shit because it's I'm just going to make it a really, really good management game. It is like a farm game, but instead of being outside, you do it inside a bungalow and inside like your room, your hotel room. And it's just a really, really well made simulation game that has again hit that sort of X factor of going like, hey, I have something special with me. I am authentic. I'm not trying to be a copy of everything else that everybody else have done or some else hit earlier. I am just authentic in the way I want to present myself, and it shows. So that is going to be my last game of the year, actually, even though technically it's not out. But I'm looking forward to see where it's going. Looking forward to see if it actually will be able to run to the edges, because there is still content to be added, and it can fall, and it can fall really, really hard, because now that the developers have added like gang wars and things like that, which can also then stop the really, really well balanced game as it is. We will have to see. But so far, it is just ridiculously fun. It's just silly billy fun, and yeah, and you can play it with friends as well. So again, yay.
Well, I have at the last minute decided what to put in my 5th slot, and I'm doing a curveball. I'm not doing any of the 3 things that remain in my Game of the Year list. I'm moving my honorable mention up into Game of the Year. I'm going to talk about a really short, completely free game called This Game Will End in 205 Clicks.
Yes.
I don't want to say too much about this game. I will say this. It is by the creator of a game called Of Stars in Time, which was my Game of the Year for, I think, 2023. It is a really interesting time loop narrative RPG that was very cool. This is a game that, as it says, will end in 205 clicks. It is a visual novel. It is about a character who becomes aware of the timer in the top right corner, counting down the clicks until the game ends. And it is a fascinating piece of indie storytelling that makes great use of its form factor and its short length to tell a really interesting narrative that wouldn't work if it wasn't a video game and if it wasn't interactive in the way it is.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite things I played this year in terms of just like free, short, memorable as hell.
Yes.
If you have maybe 10-15 minutes, This Game Will End in 205 Clicks is a really fascinating game that I want people to check out, and I want to give it Game of the Year somewhere this year to get people paying attention to it.
That is like your kind of Outer Wilds this year.
Yeah, sometimes you're just like, I gotta give this game something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at some point this before the festive period doing like a standalone Game of the Year video where I will probably put a few more things on here. I don't know what my overall Game of the Year this year is going to end up being, but like this is something that I'm like, I don't know what award I want to give this, but I want to give this something.
Yeah, I think
So,
of all my list, I think maybe just in pure entertainment and gaming hours, I think actually I would put R.E.P.O, which is, I think that is like purely Game of the Year for me. It's not a Game of the Year for what I think is the best game of the year. It's purely like for me.
Oh,
yes.
But for me, that's Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the best video game that was released this year.
No.
But it's probably the most fun I had with a video game this year. It is. If I could have another, if I could have a sequel tomorrow of one of these games, I'd pick that in a heartbeat. Give me another one of those, it'd be great.
Yeah, and of all the games we have talked about today, if there is a game I could like, they said, this you will play the rest, like all of 2026, it would be R.E.P.O. I can play it for hours upon hours. I laugh. Every time I play with new people, it's new fun. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you have any honorable mentions you want to throw in at the end here?
I really, really want to throw in Doom: The Dark Ages. Just the pure amount of accessibility. We talked about this game in length. It was talked about in the last episode as well. But it's just to see a game that has taken motion sickness to a whole new level. And I don't even think that the developers themselves understood what they did when they had the slowing down of time. But just having this incredible opportunity to play that game on stream and just realizing in real life that something developers put in actually helped me. It reduced my motion sickness in minutes. I took a break. I turned it on after one of the developers were in my chat recommending trying it, see if it would help, and it fixed everything. And I have not had this wow for accessibility of a game this year like I did with that one. And I think like because in 2024 I had a lot of them where it was like, wow, I can finally play this game. This year I don't feel like it has been such a strong same oomph for accessibility. It's just been a general good overall, but not any big woof. And for this was for me a woof. Yes.
Yeah. For me, there's a little bit of that this year. Finally seeing both Assassin's Creed Shadows and Atomfall do non-verbal subtext tone subtitles is a thing I've been trying to get the industry on board with for about 6 years now, and that was so rewarding to see starting to happen. But yeah, whatever that one game is in the year where you're like, that did something really special accessibility wise that kind of got me, that's always gonna have a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you, do you have some honorable mentions?
Yeah, I'm gonna very quickly do my honorable mentions. Dispatch.
Yeah.
It came out too recently. I've not had enough time to sit with it to know whether it's going to stick with me enough that I want to put it above some of the other big games that I put on here.
Same.
I think Dispatch, if I hadn't thrown This Game Will End in 205 clicks on, Dispatch probably would have been that fifth slot. Dispatch, absolutely fantastic, beautifully written, really well paced. I loved the dispatching gameplay in it.
If I weren't to be so pissed of the accessibility, it would be on my game of the year.
For any problems I had with accessibility, I feel like if you ask me a couple of weeks from now, I'll feel a bit more confident about where Dispatch is going to get placed. Because like this is the problem with stuff right at the end of the year. Like I'm playing through Metroid Prime 4 right now, and I'm like, I'm having a great time. I've not had time to sit with that to know if it's Game of the Year material for me. But the other two that I know are definitely Game of the Year material for me, and I'm putting them here just because they're games I played in the background and put a lot of time into, but I don't really have a huge amount new to say about, is Pokemon Legends ZA.
Yeah.
I had a great time with that. I'm shiny hunting in it still. It's Pokemon. I am obsessed with Pokemon. All I really was going to say about that is it's a new Pokemon. It was a little bit different, but it was still Pokemon. I love that.
Yeah.
And I thought about like some of the roguelike stuff I played this year. Hades 2 kind of feels like a 2024 game to me. I had a great time with that in early access. I've enjoyed it now it's out, but 2024 is where it felt like that game deserved an award for me. But Ball X Pit is the roguelike this year that like really stuck with me, where you bounce a bunch of balls around with all sorts of silly power-ups.
Yeah.
I don't have anything intelligent to say about it other than things bouncing around, points happening. I feel very good when playing it.
Yeah.
It has some of the most interesting, unique power-ups for characters mechanics I've seen in a game in this kind of genre. I am still mesmerized by that game while also going, yeah, I don't need to give it a top slot. It's a very fun time that I don't think about until I'm losing hours to it.
Yeah, I think also I have forgotten to put one of those kinds of game on my list, and that is actually Donkey Kong. That was Bonanza. It was good. It's not a game of the year but it was like it gave me a bit of the old Super Mario Odyssey vibes, and that was nice.
Yeah,
I had fun with
it. It was on my shortlist. Like if I was doing a top 10, Donkey Kong Bonanza's definitely on there.
Yeah.
It was on my shortlist, and I deleted it before we got to the recording today.
Yeah.
And if you ask me on a different day, it might make that top 5. It was a very satisfying collectathon. I had a wonderful time with it.
Yeah, but those are also games for me that never shines out, but it is fun just to play.
Yeah. But there we go. That's our Game of the Year stuff.
Woo!
We did it. We made it through another year of recording this show and playing lots of video games and thinking far too much about accessibility.
We did it, Laura.
We did. I'm ready to take a couple of weeks off and not
Yes.
think about video game. Well, not think about them for work for a couple of weeks, you know.
Yes. We will be back in the new year. New us. New year, new us, and all that jazz. And that is going to be nice.
Yeah.
Until then, Laura, where can people find you?
People can find me at Laura K Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. I want to point people toward on youtube.com/Laura K Buzz. I did a very lengthy video, a 45-minute video recapping everything that happened in video game accessibility in 2025.
Yeah.
So if you just want to know like everything that happened in the past year, go check that out. I'm very
Yes.
proud of that video. Um, Laura K Buzz, you'll find all the stuff I'm up to. Keep an eye out. There are probably going to be signed copies of Things I Learned from Mario's Butt and Who Hunts the Whale being made available very soon. My house is currently full of about 600 books
Yay.
from my publisher that fell apart. They
Yeah.
finally sent me books. So I'm going to need to get those books into people's hands. So keep an eye out on social media. I'll probably be selling signed copies at some point soon.
Yes.
What about you, Arevia? Where are you at on the internet?
You can find me under the name Arevia, except for TikTok, where somebody stole my name, and there I am, Arevia Gaming, and I still do my my like small, short form content about accessibility. I love when people ask questions on those forums. Like that makes my day, because when as soon as you guys ask a question, I go like, I need to make a video about this, and I actually do it then. Because then that just feels so. If anybody has any good question ever, or they just like, oh, I want her to make a video about it, ask it in a question form, and then I love answering it. I don't know what I am. Maybe that is like the cookie for a dog. That is my cookie. I don't know. But I love it when it is like that. And also, I am trying to figure out the way forward with next year. I am on like my big streaming hiatus and still with my health, but I'm now have time and I'm sitting down with brilliant people around me and trying to figure out how I will do this with all the new health complications, but we can't stop just because of that. So I am trying to find out how my new work day and life is looking like, and I'm starting to see where it goes, and I'm really happy about it. And I'm really inspired and motivated to continue and do just doing things a different way. But yeah, keep an eye out on all the other social medias as well.
I'm similarly excited for the new year in that regard. Early in the new year, a big project will be moving out the way, and I'll have some additional brain space for other things, and I'm excited to work out what I make next year be. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We'll be back in early 2026.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.